Hello, a very good afternoon and welcome to the TT Circuit Assen ahead of the Dutch TT under blazing sunshine, which I imagine is not breaking news to a lot of people across Europe at the moment as we try and all tackle the heat wave that is hitting us all. One man is certainly handling the heat best this morning here in the Netherlands is the World Championship leader, Marco Bezzecchi. We have spoken at length. There's been headlines around the world about the week that Marco Bezzecchi has had. No better way to bounce back, to move on from what happened last weekend than closing the visor, jumping aboard his RSGP and ending Friday morning fastest in a highly competitive opening practice session of the weekend. Perfect conditions, blue skies, graces here in Assen, and it was pretty interesting top three, shall we say. Marco Bezzecchi fastest, doing his best lap time, a 131.3 halfway through the session, but was able to match that right at the very end on very used tyres. 14 laps, both front and rear, illustrating the pace that we all expect Bez to have this weekend. Second to him, his future teammate, of course. If you have been living under the rock, you might have missed the news that has shocked the MotoGP world. Pecco Bagnaia leaving Ducati, officially heading across to Aprilia in 2027. He was second with Jorge Martin on the second of the Aprilias, their third quickest in a top 10, dominated by Ducatis and Aprilias. We feel as though it's going to be a fascinating head-to-head battle between them. One of the key stories of that session, a crash for Marc Marquez at the gate. Tim Chicane, the reigning world champion, the man in top form at the moment, was A-OK and able to bounce back from that, though. Mark setting down a pretty good pace, of course, was victorious here 12 months ago and is going to be in contention once again, even though he played down his chances yesterday. Another man to keep your eye on, Fabio Di Giannantonio. Strong start for him, as it was for the Trackhouse duo of Ayagura and Ralph Fernandez. I feel as though those are the three names for Ducati, the four names for Aprilia. Those seven look likely to be fighting it out for the podium come Sunday. It's going to be interesting to see which order they all filter into place. But for Aprilia, spoke to boss Paolo Bonora during that session, and he really rammed home the fact that there's no hiding, there's no getting away from the fact that this is a huge weekend, massive weekend for Aprilia. They need to bounce back, as we see Maverick Vinales. Strong start to the weekend for Mac. Put it in some fresh rubber late on to jump up the timesheets. He'll be happy with that one. Well, Maverick Vinales, of course, this is a place he's had some great results at over the past. But yeah, on Aprilia, they need to bounce back. They need to stop the rot. They need to make sure that all of the momentum that Ducati and Marc Marquez in particular have been building over the past couple of weekends comes to an end. Especially around a place that we anticipate Marco Bezzecchi will be at his very best. If Marquez is able to take points away from them yet again this weekend, ahead of the Saxon Ring to come in 2 weeks, there's a pretty ominous feeling to where this World Championship may well be heading. Still a long way to go, but it's a huge weekend. They really need to bounce back. They need to find something, and it looked as though that was a pretty strong start to the weekend for the Noali factory. Let's see if it continues as we go into this afternoon under what is going to be searing temperatures. Like we said, a heat wave across Europe, so I'm not exactly breaking any news to you, but here in this northern part of the Netherlands, it is going to get up to around 36, 37 degrees by 3 o'clock local time for the practice session, with a real feel with the humidity taken into account of close to 40 degrees. Quite remarkable. And as a result, track temperatures are going to be close to record levels. We're used to it being, even in the late June months, rather chilly around Assen. But given the temperatures across Europe at the moment, it's going to be red hot. Fortunately, it seems at the moment on Sunday that temperatures will drop ever so slightly. As you see, Jorge Martin here signing signatures getting some pictures with the fans that have come to cheer on the Aprilia squad this weekend. As we said, good start for Martin Ater. Was saying on Thursday that despite the fact that he has closed the gap in the World Championship, now only 8 points behind his teammate, given the fact that Bez has failed to score points in any of our last 3 events, of course taken out by Jorge at the start of the Hungarian Grand Prix, and then a double DNF for Bez in Brno. He hasn't had the feeling that he would have wanted over recent weeks. That front feeling that saw him catapult his way to a pretty famous double win in Le Mans, what feels like a long time ago now, has sort of left him ever since we moved on to Barcelona and onwards. It was a good weekend in Mugello with a pair of second places. But yeah, it just hasn't felt 100% comfortable, Jorge explaining. So the fact that he's able to close the gap and has been able to just chip away, pick up points where necessary, and keep himself well in contention in this World Championship fight should stand him in good stead as we go throughout later of the year. That's a pretty positive start, you would imagine, as he said, goes back to his base setup that they found at the start of the season. He said he was going to try and use today as a bit of a test day, not be too focused on results at the top end of the timesheets, and just make sure he tries and finds a little bit of a feeling, some kind of rhythm that can really take him forward over the next few Grand Prix weekends. When it comes to KTM, obviously, their big concern is A, losing Pedro Acosta, confirmed that the Spaniard will be teaming up with Marc Marquez in Ducati for 2027. But right now, the big issue for KTM is the reliability woes that have struck them ever since, really, the Catalan Grand Prix, where, of course, Pedro Acosta's technical problem there had huge consequences. But ever since then, it's been time and time again we've seen KTM's cutting out. Happened again, costing Pedro Acosta a top 5 finish in Brno. Acciaio not really able to say too much. They said that they understand the problem, they're working to find a solution. At the moment, we understand that they have limited the engines, reduced the revs in order to make sure that these issues do not persist. And they're hopeful that this venue in particular isn't going to be too testing when it comes to top-end speed. And next weekend, oh sorry, not next weekend, 2 weekends' time at the Saxon Ring as well. They're in survival mode, really, it feels like at the moment, as they try and get to the summer break, where they'll have a little bit more time to delve into the key issue that is really plaguing KTM at the moment, and try and find some kind of answer so they could be way more reliable, way more consistent in the second half of the season. That's what Pedro Acosta will want. Still in with a great chance of fighting for a place inside the top 3 in the World Championship. But if the bikes continue to cut out and fail on him like they have been doing on a pretty frequent basis, an unwanted frequent basis at the moment, then fighting for top 3 in the World Championship is going to be a bit of a long shot. Down at Yamaha, tricky start for them. Alex Rins suffering some technical problems, which meant that he was only able to get in half the laps that he would have wanted. Cost Fabio Quartararo, feels like a lifetime ago, was on pole position here 12 months ago. You'll get very long odds on him repeating that. Can he get inside the top 10 with the way in which the Aprilias and the Ducatis started? I think it's going to be very, very tough indeed. You really, looking at the top 10 later this afternoon, I mentioned the 7 riders that I did there. Marc Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia, Fabio Di Antonio, Marco Bezzecchi, Jorge Martin, Ralph Fernandez, Ayagura. You'd be shocked if those 7 aren't inside the top 10. So what he's able to do and try and claim one of those spots from there, we'll have to wait and see. To see Marc Marquez here chatting away with some of the fan club. Good news. After a crash this morning, Marc okay, smiling there, waving away as he walks up into his garage, into his box, sorry. So Marc, no concerns, no problems for him following on from that crash this morning, which is good to see. And some very happy Dutch fans here who've got the chance to meet Marc. Hello ladies, how are we? Very, very pleased indeed. With We'll finish off by talking on Gresini Ducati because Alex Marquez and Fabio Giovinazzi, of course, the 2026 officially contracted Ducati riders, for the first time tried Ducati's new rear aerodynamics package this morning. That's one of the key reasons that we've seen them take a real step forward over recent weeks, close the gap and if not match Aprilia now. So we'll see what they're able to do, but of course Alex Marquez still recovering on, withdrew from the Czech Grand Prix last weekend and is again in survival mode, just trying to recuperate, refocus and re-energise the body following on from the injuries sustained in that crash at the Catalan Grand Prix. We'll have one little walk back down. It looks as though, unsurprisingly, given the soaring temperatures, given the fact it's a back-to-back race anyway, so there's already reduced energy levels up and down the MotoGP grid, knowing what's to come both later today and tomorrow with some of the most testing temperatures and conditions that we'll have ever seen at the Dutch TT. And of course, we cannot forget that the Dutch TT has been a mainstay on the calendar since the World Championship was inaugurated back in 1949. So that is quite a bit of history, and it is going to be a historic weekend as a result of these temperatures. I don't think we'll have seen temperatures get close to 40 degrees here at Assen in many other editions of the Dutch TT. As a result of all of that, it looks as though riders have decided to jump into their air-conditioned offices and hospitality units to make sure that they can fuel up, keep the body cool and make sure they've got plenty in the tank for MotoGP practice later on today. There we go, inside the paddock. I've managed to bring you right up to speed with everything that's happening here at Assen this weekend. We're back with you same time tomorrow, where I'm sure I'll do a better job at trying to get some kind of analysis and some kind of reaction to what is going to be a hot and sweaty qualifying session. MotoGP back on track, 3 o'clock local time. I, myself, I'm going to follow the MotoGP riders and go find some air conditioning. See you tomorrow.